Oh, here goes, and welcome to episode 71 of Throwback Hoops. Woody V is in the house. As always, please follow the show on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcast. We appreciate the ongoing support from all our fans. And as always, I'm joined by my main man, Robbie Clayton. What's up, bro?
What's up, Woods? Good to be back. I know it's been a really busy week for both of us doing our actual real jobs. So, yeah, we're kind of looking forward just to take a bit of a break from that and talk about the game that we love so much. So, yeah, let's do it.
And you're fresh off being a special guest on another podcast, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely. I'll talk a little bit about that when we sort of get to the NBL1 East. And, had a couple of games on KO freebies last week, which is good. So, yeah, we'll definitely talk about that. But, yeah, let's get into it.
No problem. So let's kick it off, man. What you got for us today?
Sounds good. So, yeah, look, I'm actually hanging the same player of the jersey you're wearing today, so I won't talk too much about that. But, yeah, I just thought it'd be a good time to sort of hang a Josh Giddey white OKC jersey. You can probably see that one's still got the tags on it, so it hasn't actually been worn, that one, but we'll certainly get a bit of wear on that one. I'll just stand up and show you the one I'm wearing today. Yes, I do know the news that he's no longer a Wildcat, but I'll tell you the reason why I'm wearing it, so one sec.
And Robbie's wearing the white Wildcats number 8 Mitch Norton jersey. What a trailblazer and a veteran he's been, not only for your Wildcats, but across a couple of other teams as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's a pretty rare one. This is the road jersey as well. Obviously, we know they wear sort of white when they have the road jersey, so it was always pretty hard to get those Wildcats jerseys in white. So, yeah, look, as I said, the reason I'm wearing it, totally aware he's no longer a Wildcat, but I really just wanted to thank Mitch for his years with the Wildcats and really wish him luck with the new team, the Brisbane Bullets, which I believe was made sort of official today. So just a little bit on Nordo there, Wood. So 30-year-old from Townsville, started off with the Crocs in 2011, and when that team folded, he headed to the Illawarra Hawks at the time, before signing with the Wildcats in 2018. So after joining the Wildcats, he went on to win 2 championships. Was a really big part of that team, playing behind those star guards in Damien Martin and Bryce Cotton. Also had some success as a boomer. He won gold at the 2018 Commonwealth Games in Gold Coast and also at the FIBA Asia Cup in 2017. So, look, he was definitely someone that was always very injury-prone. He always kind of felt like he was a bit of an injury waiting to happen with the Wildcats, but absolutely gave it his all, Woods, every time he came out on the floor there. And I think that's probably why so many Wildcats fans, including myself, were pretty sad to see him part ways with the team last week. So, yeah, wishing Mitch all the best there with the Brisbane Bullets. I think he's still got something to offer. That's probably part of the reason why I was hoping he would stay with the Wildcats. He doesn't have the most amazing stats. They don't jump off the page and anything, but we know what a great defender he is. He's pretty reliable in pressure situations and everything. And we saw him play that big role in that crucial game against Southeast Phoenix when he was out on the court pretty much the whole fourth quarter. In the play-in type thing as well. So, yeah, and Woods don't have any bobbleheads with these two guys, but I was thinking today I must get a Josh Giddey bobblehead, right? So that's something it's a must, and I'll probably get you one when I can actually find one as well. So,
yeah, and look, with Mitch Norton, he's heading back to where it all started in Queensland with the Townsville Crocodiles, right? And he's a Queensland local originally, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, born and bred in Townsville. Yep. So, yeah, he's a good one for him to get there. And look, I think it's probably they need someone on that Brisbane team to sort of help some of these younger guys. I know they've gone a little bit younger this year with their plans and their thinking there. So, yeah, as I said, certainly wish him all the best. And I'm sure he'll be annoying when the Wildcats play Brisbane this year, and he'll be all over Bryce Cotton, which will probably be fun to watch.
And interesting, Aaron Baines played a huge role in actually recruiting him to come over to Brisbane.
That's right, because I think a lot of people were like, oh, will he end up going back to the Hawks or anything else like that? And there was some talk of some other teams. But, yeah, maybe someone like Baines was the catalyst to getting him there.
Awesome.
What about yourself, Woods? You better tell the story of the one you're wearing.
Yeah, special signature version of the jersey I've got.
Nice. So Woods is standing up, rocking the number 3 Josh Giddey blue Thunder jersey. So I know that's one of those ones where they put like a facsimile of the signature and charge an extra $50 for that, Woods. But it is a nice looking jersey.
Something like that. I do like the jersey. Yeah, it does fit nicely. Actually, I got this at the NBA store, Sydney. Mm-hmm. So when I went and visited there, I mean, words can't describe how good Josh has been. And everyone in Australia is aware of what he's doing over in the NBA. But for the Oklahoma City Thunder, who aren't on national TV in America that often, a lot of people wouldn't have got a chance to see him at his best until that play-in game against the Pelicans, where he put up that line of 31, 10, and 9. And I was saying, try and give me a better statistical line by an Australian in a big game like that, right? I mean, it's hard to think of anyone who would have put up those kind of numbers in such a game, right? In a playoff game, for example, right? You know,
he seems to be surprising people, Woods, and I'm sure it's got something to do with his appearance and his, his hair that he's always fixing up all the time. But so many tweets and quotes last week where people were like, "Wow, this guy's legit, this guy's for real," and everything. It's almost like they perhaps didn't treat him seriously. He's not the greatest jumper on the court and everything else like that, but fundamentally and just sneaky big as well. I mean, a 6'8" point guard doing what he does there, and 20 years of age is unbelievable.
And Joe Ingles gets those kind of comments as well, and it's funny that his mentor is Joe Ingles, right? And he's learned a lot from him over the years. He's very unassuming, but as we said, what a great rebounder, led the team in rebounding. We've spoken about that before. He finished off his sophomore year at 16.6 points, 7.9 rebounds, 6.2 assists, shooting 48.2% from the field, and he's got his 3-point shooting percentage into that low to mid 30s, which is a real improvement from last year. You can just see that shot is getting better and better. And as Lee Ellis said when he was on our show, he will be an all-star in this league, right? And that might happen sooner rather than later, right?
Yeah, man, look, we haven't had an Aussie all-star apart from, Ben Simmons, really, have we? I think he was the first one from memory. So,
first and only.
I mean, that would be huge to get it. I was just thinking as well today, Woods, how good he's going to be in fantasy comps that we go in next year as well. So, I know, I mean, what would you say he'd go in fantasy next year, given his stuffing stats?
Well, I had him this year, and the problem was the 3-pointers were a bit low, and then he'd have a few turnovers and things like that. So I think he ended up being about 70 or 80 ranked at the end of the year, right? Something like that.
Interesting, but I think he's going to continue to grow. And he didn't get that kind of sophomore slump this year either, did he? He sort of he picked it up. He definitely worked on his game. He worked on his shooting and everything as well. So it's great to see, isn't it?
And that's a great backcourt you've got there, right? With Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Josh Giddey, and they seem to be really good friends and get along really well. So that always helps when you get along off the court. That translates to results on the court. And big ups to what OKC did this year. Yeah,
absolutely.
All right, well, let's get into the show, Robbie. We're in the beginning of the actual playoffs now. The play-in have finished, so maybe let's start the East, right? Let's start off with our Atlanta Hawks against the Boston Celtics. What have you seen so far?
Yeah, so look, at the time of recording, so it's Wednesday, the 19th of April. So obviously we've seen that Game 2 game go down today. Look, I mean, if I'm trying to put my positive hat on, I thought the Hawks definitely were better than Game 1. They certainly came out well in the first quarter, and they finished the game quite good. I mean, they cut that margin to, I believe, about 8 points in the last quarter, and I really had a bit of ascendancy there, but then just some big defensive plays against for Boston. Some really good shooting from them. I thought Boston today, their field goal percentage was, in the mid-50s, I think, from memory. So, yeah, I mean, look, Boston did what they're supposed to do. They won those 2 home games there, unlike a few of the series we'll talk about where there has been some upsets in those first games. We know they're a complete team, Boston. We know they're one of the better teams in the NBA, so probably not a massive shock. The first game was a little bit disappointing with the margin, but as I said, looked a lot better today. Keeping that positive hat on, I thought DeJounte has been definitely our best player, certainly in the 2 games there. He's averaging 25. What's he averaging? Sorry, I've got that somewhere. Yeah, he's averaging in the 20s anyway. He's our leading scorer. Probably being the negative there, Trey's field goal percentage has been pretty low. I think he's better today than Game 1, but it's still been low, and still probably it's a few too many turnovers from him. John Collinswood has been pretty much a non-factor in these 2 games. So he scored 17 points and had 10 rebounds in 2 games. He was just 2 of 11, I believe, today. So percentages are way down. I'm a big fan of Jalen Johnson there, Woods. I would have loved to have seen him play more. He played 4 minutes today. I just think his length, against a big team like Boston, you've got guys like Tatum and everyone else like that, these long sort of guys. I think someone like Jalen Johnson could help there. So be interested to see how that goes. But look, we know when these players go home, the role players seem to step up a bit more. So we might see a little bit of that in the big Game 3 on Saturday. So I've had a few people message me today saying it's going to be a gentleman's sweep and maybe Hawks win one of those games. What are you reading on that one?
Yeah, I was thinking a 5-game series when we did our predictions last week. I thought it would be 5.
I think we both said that, didn't we?
Yeah, I think you might have said 6, actually.
Did I? Okay.
Yeah. I think we could actually push it to 6, right? It really depends. I mean, we were in it today. Throughout the game, we were competitive, and I thought Boston's defensively were really strong today, and as you said, DeJounte Murray 29, 6 and 6. A friend of mine actually just texted me today and he goes, "Woody, what's going on, man? AJ Griffin really deserves some time in that Hawks rotation. You know, he's really earned it. Why is Quinn Snyder not playing him at all?" I said, look, you know, Sadiq Bey's now joined the team, and his great players probably affected that. What are your thoughts? Should AJ Griffin be given some sort of opportunity in that rotation?
I mean, you know, there's probably not many bigger fans of AJ Griffin than me, Woods, but we know what happens in playoff basketball. The rotations get shortened. You've got more break between games, so you can potentially play guys a little bit more there. So, I mean, look, obviously, you know, Schneider likes Jalen Johnson more than AJ. We've seen that over the last 20 games. And if Jalen's only playing 4 minutes, and it's probably not a big shock that AJ Griffin's getting a DNP CD. But yeah, I know what you mean, though. I don't see why they couldn't bring him on for, you know, a few minutes, you know, midway through the second quarter or a few minutes in the third quarter just to try and, you know, break up the defenses a bit. We know Griffin's a very reliable shooter there. So, and we'll see what happens when they go home, whether they try and change up a few things. Someone I wanted to call out as well on the Boston team as well, Woods, is Derek White and his ginormous forward. He is killing it. So how's this for stats in these two games? He's averaging 25 points, 6 rebounds, 4.5 assists. He's also averaging 2 blocks a game, Woods, and he's shooting 18 of 29 over the 2 games. So he's potentially been their best player in these 2 games and played like 38 minutes today, which is well over 10 minutes more than his season average there. So
played 33 today, actually. 33.
38 game 1, I believe it was. Yeah, he's sort of, you know, him and Brogdon still sort of share the things, but, you know, he started both games and he's been the difference maker for me.
He's been unreal. And they've got that shorter rotation as well. You see a guy like Grant Williams doesn't play anymore, you know, and just Brogdon, Williams pretty much off the bench, and a few minutes for Sam Hauser. So as you said, these rotations do get shorter. But Derek White, you know, he's come from that system in San Antonio. He's got that experience now. You can call him a veteran, and he fits perfectly on that Boston roster, doesn't he?
He definitely does, yeah.
All right, let's move on then to New York versus Cleveland. What are you seeing there?
That was an interesting one. That was one of those series I mentioned before where obviously the road team, you know, stole that game 1 there. So, yeah, I mean, Cleveland looked a lot better today, I thought.
Oh, yeah, they had the game the whole way.
Play. Yeah. You know, I think Donovan Mitchell's been pretty good in these 2 games. He was certainly, you know, really good in the first game and sort of led him there. But it definitely looks like one of those series that I would expect to go quite far, I'd say, Woods. Seems like both teams are pretty evenly matched. You know, certainly wouldn't be surprised to see Cleveland pinch that next one in New York, and potentially they go that 1-for-1 sort of thing there. So, I mean, yeah, that score probably, you know, they won by 17 in the end. It felt like they were up big all game today, Cleveland. So, yeah, Darius Garland was really big as well today with 32 points. There was a big sort of breakout game for him, I guess, there. I know the Knicks were missing my boy Josh Hart as well, so he was pretty good in game 1 for him. But and obviously Randall's back as well, so there was some concern about him with his injury there. So in fact, sorry, apologies, Josh Hart did play today.
Josh Hart played today,
under a big cloud, and he played 30 odd minutes. Yeah, so
But
yeah, you know, Randall's obviously back. You know, he didn't look amazing in you know the first game, but he's back and obviously testing out that ankle there. Jalen Brunson's percentages are a little bit down. I mean, he was only 5 of 17 today. So
he was 1 of 8 from 3.
Pick that up, yeah. They probably want better from that, wouldn't they? And yeah, just a pretty complete effort, I'd say, from Karis LeVert was big.
Karis LeVert, man. I was going to say, shout out to him. He was amazing off the bench. And he's another guy.
He led the team in minutes for him today. He played 40 minutes off the bench, 40 off the bench, and scored 24 points. So, and they were plus 23 with him on the court, which is pretty.
Had something to do with Isaac Okoro going off early, right? I think he only played 2 minutes.
Yeah, a couple of minutes, and he seems to always be an injury waiting to happen. Okoro, just with that style he plays, doesn't he? But I mean, look, we know they're a good defensive team, Cleveland. You got Jared Allen and Eric Mobley, who I believe was third in the defensive player of the year. Evan Mobley, yeah. So. Yep. I mean, like I say, I do expect this one to go the distance, though.
Yeah, it's shaping up to be a really good series. Okay, Philly versus Brooklyn. Philly seems to be ruling that series 2-0 there. Can Brooklyn come back here? I think Philly looked pretty strong.
This has probably got that gentleman's sweep written on this series as well, doesn't it? Philly definitely seemed to have dominated those first 2 games pretty easily there. We saw yesterday Embiid didn't have the greatest game, but then Tyrese Maxey stepped up and had a huge game, 33 points there and looked really good off the bench. Tobias Harris has been good for him in both games. When he rebounds as well, I mean? He sometimes can be a little bit soft there. When he's actually rebounding and doing what he's done these last couple of games, very important player there. So, Cam Johnson and Bridges have been decent for Brooklyn, but they probably need that third guy to step up. No Paddy Mills, Woods. I know you're not going to be happy about him just rotting on the bench there doing nothing. Again, why you can't bring someone like him on for 5 minutes in the second quarter just to try and see if he can get hot is a strange one. But and Embiid, yesterday, look, he only had 20 points, but he had the 19 rebounds, 7 assists, and he was actually querying the blocks tally. I think they gave him 3, and he said he probably had 5 for the game, which was interesting there. But he did get posterized, though, didn't he, by Cam Johnson?
Yeah, he did. Cam's an athlete, man.
Yep. Yeah, what's your take been on that series?
Yeah, look, I just think Philly's going to potentially sweep it. I said 5. I think I might have said 5 or 6. Might have said Philly in 5 or 6, but I just watching the games, I wouldn't be surprised if Philly take this third game and sweep the series there and finish it off quickly.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be surprised the way they've come out in these 2 games, and that would probably be good for them to get a bit of a rest and a break there, given that some of these other East series could go a little bit longer anyway.
Yep. All right, so let's move on to the 8 versus 1 seed. A huge surprise there. Jimmy Butler, your mate, and the Miami Heat taking on Milwaukee with a victory there. And maybe you can speak a little bit about the injury cloud hanging over Giannis.
Yeah, it's weird with that series. It kind of started before the Hawks-Boston series, and they kind of switched the games around with the schedule sort of thing. So they're obviously game 2's on tomorrow, so Thursday the 20th. Yeah, very interesting first game there. We saw Giannis go out early. I believe it was with a back injury, and now he might have an ankle injury or a wrist injury or something. I'm definitely no doctor there, Woods, but he's under a cloud. I wouldn't be surprised with someone like Giannis if he actually does suit up and play tomorrow. But obviously a big injury for Miami there with Tyler Hero breaking his hand there. So he's out for 4 to 6 weeks, they're saying, which, look, unless they really make a really deep run into the finals, you'd say that'll be him gone for the year. So I think that could impact him, couldn't it? Because they're a team that, traditionally isn't the most, high-scoring, high-octane team there, and he does give a lot for him on the offensive end. So someone will have to step up. We've seen Max Strus have some pretty solid games as well. So maybe someone like him has to have another big one. But
we did speak last week about the highest paid bench warmer in the NBA, in Duncan Robinson. Yeah. This could open up some time for him in that rotation, right?
It could, but then he's also going to play down the defensive end as well. So against some of these guys from Milwaukee that would just, try and run him off the court there. But
maybe Oladipo, maybe.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. I mean, obviously Giannis is the key, isn't it, if they can get him back there. But, I mean, that's a big game for Milwaukee tomorrow, isn't it? I mean, if they go down 2-0 with those next 2 games in South Beach, that's huge. And that's, we don't see a lot of, 8 seeds beating a 1 seed there. And that could be a real big upset if they could get that game 2 and then go home.
And Miami have got a good record against Milwaukee over the years, right? And Jimmy Butler was really quietly confident about that matchup after they won that play-in game, you'll remember, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's given them that confidence, I think, with that first game. So, yeah, like I said, it's probably just going to be where they get those extra points from with Hero out, but it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
All right. Well, let's move over to the West then. Let's start off with Denver versus Minnesota. Now, Denver have ruled that series. Can Minnesota take a game there?
Well, I mean, it's only been 1 game so far, so it's a little bit hard to read too much of that. Denver did what they needed to do, but they were very comprehensive. That was one of the more comprehensive game 1s, I think, from any home team, apart from maybe Boston against Hawks there. But, they did everything they needed to do. I got the impression Minnesota were a little bit tired in that game after playing those couple of playing games there.
So game 2's tomorrow, yeah?
Game 2's tomorrow, yeah. So, I mean, look, you'd expect Denver to do the business at home and sort of, do what they need to do there and go back to Minnesota with the lead there. And, Rudy Gobert's back and playing and everything like that now. So, and Kyle Anderson actually got into it with someone on the other team rather than his teammate in that game 1, which is pretty interesting there. So, yeah, not expecting a whole lot from Minnesota in game 2 anyway.
Yep, a more interesting series is the Suns versus the Clippers. And to see Kawhi Leonard, Eric Gordon, and Russell Westbrook all on the same team, I was just saying to our friends earlier, seems odd to see those 3 playing together at this point in their careers, right?
It does. It's nice to see Eric Gordon back out there and being a very good contributor to a playoff team now after sort of being with the Rockets and that team that's been pretty poor for the last few years there. But you're right. Would you say this has been the best series so far, Woods? Or, I mean, it's only 2 games, but, obviously Phoenix had the big win today, squaring the series at 1-1. Look, that was a crucial one for them on their home court there. So the series now goes back to LA for 2 games. But, yeah, you're right. Durant, Kawhi, Booker, there's some stars out on that court there. And,
Torrey Craig, he's really been playing well. Yeah.
Landale didn't get on today, I believe, did he? They played a lot of Bismack Biyombo there, which was interesting. They decided to go with him there, given let's just say, his limitations on the offensive end. I mean, he scored 6 points today, which is probably not a bad effort, but a bit disappointing not to see Landale come on, right?
I think since Durant has been in the lineup, they have preferred to go with Biyombo as the backup big to Landale, right? So,
and to your point, Woods, Torrey Craig, 32 minutes today, 17 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, and he had their highest plus-minus of plus 16 for the game. So really important part of their team, right? The former NBL player.
Well, you mentioned Bridges and Johnson going out east to Brooklyn, right? In that trade, and that really opened up some minutes at that wing position, for the Suns. And Torrey Craig has filled that void admirably, right?
Hey, give me your thoughts on Westbrook, Woods. I'm obviously a big fan. It seems to be all these players I like, whether it's Trey, Westbrook, Julius Randle, Zach LaVine. They're all those kind of players that people love to hate there. But what's your thoughts been on Westbrook's outcome in these first 2 games? 28 points today.
Yeah, and he was amazing. Even in that first game, I think he shot really poorly. But the way he impacted the game, in various different ways, playing hard-nosed defense, really wanting that victory. He's fit in nicely on this team. I mean, you look at this. Kawhi Leonard, Nicholas Batum, Zubac, Westbrook, Eric Gordon, Norman Powell, Bones Highland, Mason Plumlee, Robert Covington. I mean, dude, this is not like the team was when the season started, right?
I know a certain person with the same last name as me that goes for the Clippers, Woods. He's absolutely thrilled that that Morris has been a DMP CD in those 2 games. He's not a fan of him there. But, I mean, look, that Westbrook, especially in game 1 there, it reminded me of the old John Starks performance. He was 3 of 18 at one stage, ended up being 3 of 19, but was probably the most influential player on the court and helped him get the victory there. I mean, that block and then save where he threw it off Devin Booker, which, say the Clippers were to make a deep run. Yeah, they'll be replaying that play for years. But, yeah, good to see. I'm not a massive Phoenix fan, so I'm certainly cheering on the Clippers in this series there. And I do think this one probably could go the distance as well.
Oof, yeah, definitely. I mean, if the Suns lose in this first round, it could... Man, it's not a great look, is it?
No, true. Considering they're healthy and everything at the moment.
And right? Paul George isn't there on the Clippers. You'd think the Suns should take this series still, right?
Yep.
All right, so let's move on. I mean, we did say that Lakers would beat Memphis 1-0. Game 2 tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, it is,
Yep. What about Austin Reeves, man?
He's been great, hasn't he? He seems to be getting more confident as each game goes along now. Probably another one of those players in that Josh Giddey category that players potentially might look at and don't respect a whole lot, and then before you know it, he's dunking over him or shooting over him and stuff. And look, I mean, only the game 1 in that series, but that was a big win for Lakers winning on Memphis' home court. 16-point lead there. Look, Ja Morant's another one of these star players with an injury cloud there. And someone actually said a good point to me this week. He's a little bit like those early Derrick Rose playing with the Bulls there, Ja Morant. He just basically gets in the air so much. He probably weighs, 75 kilos or something like that. And he's running into these big guys and constantly, going down and getting hurt there. So I wouldn't be surprised to see if he's one of those players that in the second half of his career kind of tries to have, reinvent his style of play there. But, once he's had those, one hit too many there. But he's a big one there. I'm hearing he could be touch and go for that game too.
Yeah, me too.
We know they've got obviously a good point guard replacement there. But, yeah, I mean, Jaren Jackson was huge in that one, wasn't he? 31 points. So shout out to him for winning the Defensive Player of the Year award as well.
Well deserved,
Yeah, but AD was really good in that game 1, and like you said, guys like Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura as well in that game. Huge,
Rui
right?
Hachimura.
Yeah. I think I read that was the most threes he'd ever hit in a game. I think he hit 4 threes in the game, was it? So 5 was it? Yeah, so career high for him there. So, and I saw Desmond Bain was talking a bit of smack after the game 1, saying, he's not going to do that again, blah blah blah. So we know Memphis like to talk a lot, don't they? But probably that's a crucial game for them tomorrow, isn't it? Lakers have kind of got a free hit at this one with the 1-0 lead.
They do. They've already stolen home court, right? I think what Charles Barkley actually made a really good point. You look at the Lakers roster a few years ago; they were all old, washed-up guys. Then they became it was almost like a G League bench, right, of players that, and now they've actually got players who are quality NBA players on that team. You talk about Russell, Reeves, Vanderbilt, Rui Hachimura, Dennis Schroeder, Troy Brown Jr., Malik Beasley. These guys are all rotation players and on an NBA roster, and to go put these guys alongside Anthony Davis and LeBron James, man, this Lakers team is scary, man. They could
Yeah.
they could go deep here, right?
Hey, Woods, I wonder what odds Rui Hachimura would have been for the Lakers for being their leading scorer in game one there. I mean, 29 points and led the team in scoring. Just an amazing effort there. So, but I think you're right with that bench there. They've got guys that could step up. I mean, Schroeder was pretty quiet in that game after having a big, game in that play-in sort of series there. So, yeah they're looking pretty
good. Russ was good, though,
Yeah, he was a lot better.
Yeah,
for sure.
All right, cool. So let's move on to the last series. And I know you want to talk about this one, Warriors versus Kings.
I've really enjoyed these first two games. I've got to say, really good atmosphere. We know that Sacramento crowd's really good there. Really impressed with the Kings. They've come up good in those clutch situations there. Obviously, the news came out today, Woods. I'm assuming you saw that as well, that Draymond's been suspended for game 3 there. So it's an interesting one. I'm a fan of Sabonis and his giant head, and I'm probably not a fan really of Draymond Green, but I don't know if he deserved a game. That's probably just my honest take on it there. I still get the impression Sabonis embellished that one a little bit. They're saying he was going for X-rays. That might have been all part of it to try and get a suspension in there. We're only speculating, of course. But in that little incident we're talking about in game 2 there, Sabonis certainly held Draymond's leg there and kind of forced him to be off balance. There's no doubt Draymond was pissed off about it and put his foot on him there, but I don't think it was as bad as the way Sabonis was carrying on. But that's crucial though, isn't it? They're down 2-0 and one of their more important sort of players is out for that game 3 there. But De'Aaron Fox, Woods, you rocked his jersey last week. He's been amazing.
You took the words out of my mouth.
And Malik Monk, right?
Oh, man.
He's a player that the Lakers we spoke about before, they sort of got rid of him in the offseason there and didn't really seem to care getting rid of him. And he was huge in that game. And Kevin Red Velvet Herter's been pretty solid as well. So, yeah, I'm liking this Sacramento team.
And getting to the free throw line as well, Malik Monk, a lot, right, in this series. Yeah. I think he shot quite a few in that first game anyway.
What's your take been on that series then?
I think Sacramento, they haven't been one of the premier defensive teams in the league throughout the regular season. I think they rank in the bottom 10 somewhere. But what they do have is they have Mike Brown, who has a lot of familiarity with that Golden State team, being on that bench, right? And knowing how Steve Kerr does things. So what we didn't probably think about when we said that we thought Golden State would win in 5 is the influence Mike Brown would have having that inside knowledge there. And I think they've been playing great defense throughout these first 2 games, which is a huge surprise. And that's on the back of Mike Brown's planning, I feel, right?
No, good call. And look, I think Golden State need to get a lot more from their bench. I mean, obviously, Gary Payton got 13, was the only one that really did anything on the bench. Woods, Jordan Poole, is he a good NBA player or not?
I mean, he could put up points, right? But I mean, he's seriously got issues on the defensive end, right? And his shot selection is poor. They can't close out games with him anymore. I don't think he's going to be worth the money that he's going to be making, right? Let's say that, right?
Well, he played 16 minutes in that game too, 1 of 7 from the field for 4 points. And you're right, he's on a big contract there and someone that they probably would really be counting on to do a little bit more for him there. Even someone like Kuminga Woods played 4 minutes in that game. He'll probably have to step up a little bit in Draymond's absence there. I mean, unless they try and play a little bit smaller there, but I'm not sure. He probably potentially could get some, maybe him or J. Michael Green there might have to step up in Draymond's absence. But I think they're in a little bit of trouble, to be honest now.
Yeah, and I mean, they do have a great record at home and a bad record away, so it wouldn't surprise me if they do take these 2 games, right? So this is a really good opportunity for Sacramento to go 3-0 up, right, with Draymond potentially out.
Hey, Woods, I noticed that old mate Thompson's not on Sacramento's roster anymore as well, is he? So we talked about him last week. Yeah, interesting.
What do you mean, old mate Thompson?
We spoke about him last week from Cleveland's finest, right? Was on there.
He's on the Lakers. He's on the Lakers.
On Lakers, is it?
Tristan Thompson's on the Lakers.
It's the Lakers now. I got my wrong California team. Okay.
No, he's definitely on the Lakers. I think a guy like Dante DiVincenzo could do with some court time, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, he's someone that had some pretty big moments in the season, especially when Wiggins was out there, so they could get a bit more from him. Yeah, so apologies for getting my Thompson and California team mixed up. But as we mentioned, Woods, it's been a long day, so we're allowed 1 or 2 mistakes, right? That's my 1. You're allowed 1 as well now.
Yeah, no worries. So just having a look here. Yes, a 14 from 14 from the free throw line in game 1. Malik Monk. That was the stat I was looking for, right? Huge. 32 points, 8 from 13 from the field, putting heat on the rim. And that's what I was going to say. Kings have got guys putting heat on the rim, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the Warriors don't really, they're not getting liners at all compared to what the Sacramento Kings are. So they need someone who can do that. Jordan Poole maybe could have been that guy, but he's obviously not delivering. So
he thinks he's that guy, doesn't he? That's for sure.
All right. Well, let's move on, man. Let's talk a little bit about NBL free agency. We already spoke about Mitch Norton going to Queensland, returning to Queensland to play for Brisbane.
Yep.
Let's talk about Luke Travis. Melbourne United.
I mean, I probably wasn't surprised. That was the mail I was getting, that he was going to be going there. And look, good luck to him. I wish him all the best there. I'm not going to be one of those fans that sort of hates on him, but I do think some of his comments that he was wanting to have a little bit more of the ball and perhaps a better situation. I'm not quite sure why he's now gone to United there. A team that, let's face it, they're going to be loaded next season. They're doing some pretty creative accounting, I must say, so far, I think. We might see a bit of that. Everyone talks about Sydney and Perth. They might need to look at Melbourne's books this year. But, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, I've heard people saying you might get one of those Xavier Cooks type roles at United there, but I just can't see it, to be honest, Woods. They've got a lot of mouths that need feeding on that team. We're still not sure if they'll end up even having imports or not, what the deal is there, but interesting, isn't it? I wonder whether there was maybe something a little bit deeper there. Maybe he just didn't sort of see eye to eye with Coach John Rillie. It's not the sort of thing you're going to say before leaving a team. You're going to try and put a positive spin on it, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's something like that, to be honest. What were your thoughts on that signing?
Yeah, look, the big thing was for him to get the ability to showcase his talents more. He's not actually going to get that in Melbourne, as you spoke of. So I thought that a Cairns or an Illawarra would have been a better fit for him. Yeah. As you said, you look at Shea Illy, Chris Golding. You've got, who else have you got there?
Well, Tanner Krebs signed recently as well. So, yeah, I mean, like we said, we're not sure.
Joel Luala-Chul's there. There's so many guys, so many
mouths. He likes a shot, doesn't he, Joe?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, and then Matthew Dellavedova potentially coming back.
Maybe.
And, everyone in that United rotation usually plays 20 to 25 to 30 minutes max, right? So it's a bit interesting because I don't think he will get that opportunity to showcase his talents that he would have liked. So let's see how it plays out. Maybe it had a bit to do with Coach Vickerman, that system. Who knows? Let's see. All right, what about the other signings? We've got Anthony Drimmick going to Tasmania now, right?
Yeah, I don't think that was a bad move there, getting that sort of veteran presence. He was pretty handy last season, wasn't he? Had a decent season. So I don't think that was too bad a one there. Obviously, we saw Tasmania, I think, on the same day. Woods is probably on your notes. They lost the big man Matt Kenyon as well, who went to the Phoenix, I believe. He was a pretty handy sort of backup last year as well.
Kenyon started actually for a lot of the season.
Yeah, that's it. Obviously, with Magnay sort of being injured like he tends to be. So. Yeah, that was an interesting one. And there was one move I wanted to talk on as well. I know you might have another one or two there, but it was
no, that's it.
Of course, it's my Wildcats. A bit of a homer there, but they signed a player that's playing for the Centre of Excellence in the NBL1 East that I cover there at the moment, Ben Henschel. So another WA product there. So you can see there what they're trying to do in Perth. Their three signings so far have all been homegrown, WA players there. But really excited about this guy. He's only 18 years of age. He's averaging 22, 3 and 5 in the NBL1 East for COE. Recently played in the under-20s. WA won the gold medal in that and was the MVP of the tournament. So looking at his highlights, he's athletic, he can shoot, seems to have the complete package there. So I'm liking that move. Hoping I still get to commentate him as well. I believe it's the last game of the season, so not sure if they will pull him from the team early, given he's got the signing for the NBL team. But I thought that was a good sort of sneaky signing by the Wildcats there.
Yeah, definitely, and to get him early, and lock him in, that system in Perth develops players really well. We've seen that with Luke Travis, who we just spoke about, right? And there's many others we can mention, Karl Zunic and etc. over the recent time that have really.
Well, even Harris last year came on, I thought, quite well. Yeah,
definitely. Yep. All right, well, that's great. Kings have been pretty quiet, right?
They have been, haven't they? Somewhat surprisingly there. So, yeah, I wonder what they'll do. How many of those imports do you think will be back for Sydney Woods?
Look,
Walton won't be back. He'll get a raise.
Probably Justin Simon, I think, will be back, right? Yeah. And I wouldn't mind going for a Marcus Lee type, right? If not Marcus Lee as well. We spoke about it last week with the acquisitions Melbourne have made of Joel Luala-Chul and obviously Ariel Hakporti coming back for another year.
Yeah,
it makes sense for someone like Marcus Lee to find a new home, and Sydney would be a good fit there.
I think in terms of these imports, and you can see the teams trying to lock up the Aussie talent now, and then when NBA summer leagues and all these things are on, that's when all their scouts will be over there, and they'll be trying to get the next big thing for imports there. So I'm sure Sydney will be patient, and they'll end up getting some quality imports. Yeah.
All right, so that's great. while we're talking about NBL, let's talk about NBL1, all right? Okay, you did mention that you called a few games on KO, right?
Yeah.
You also were a guest on Eastcott Game. Shout out to the guys there. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about your experiences this weekend? Calling a Friday night game as well, how's that?
Yeah. Well, firstly, I'll talk on going on Eastcott Games. So big shout out to Jacinta and Lockie for having me there. So I cheated on you this week, Woods, going on another podcast. So I felt bad about it. But that was really fun, actually, going on with, two other people that are equally as passionate as I am. And they certainly know their stuff. They know the women's game a lot more than I do. I'll give them that. But it was great to go on there. They made me feel really welcome. Had to name my All-Star 5 for the men's in NBL1 East, which, given there was 13 games in the round last week, that was really tough. So I sat there one night this week, really, should I put this guy in, that guy in? I put Junior Madut in there, Woods, given he scored 50 points in a game last week. Yeah. Free agent Junior Madut, right? Look, in terms of those games I did, so I actually wasn't aware it was the KO freebie, so game of the week. And I got to the stadium and I saw all these extra cameras there. I'm like, oh, hang on, this must be the KO game. So, yeah, they have almost triple the amount of cameras there. And it was good. So they had, friends and family in different states and everything in Australia that got to watch it. And, they all said that I did a good job. I mean, they're hardly going to say I was crap, are they, Woods? But in terms
you did do a good job, man.
Oh, thanks, mate. In terms of them being game of the week, they weren't the greatest games, if I'm being honest. So Penrith beat the Hills women's team by 27 in a game in which Talia Tapia there, who's we know from the WNBL, she, I think, potentially might have torn her calf in that game and went off. So that sort of soured their win a little bit there. But they were a good team there. Meg Jefferson was really impressive for Penrith. But then the men's team, so both teams came in with a 0-4 record. The Hills men ran out 40-point winners, Wood. So former Sydney Kings DP Ben Kieran's was just huge in that game. 30 points, 6 rebounds, had 5 steals as well on 13 of 20 shooting. So it was good to see it. I mentioned on the Eastcott Game podcast, you get close to these guys and you feel their losses when they lose, and they have had a few losses lately. So it was great to sort of see them smiling after the game and everything else like that, and probably got their season back on track as they won the next day in Central Coast as well. So. And look, I say it every week, Woods, get out and support your NBL1, team, right? So anyone listening or watching this podcast, around Australia there, you've probably got a local team. They've got all the different conferences there. Go out and watch a game. It's really good sort of getting involved, that community sort of spirit and everything else like that, and getting close and personal with some of these players and everything like that. So I'd encourage fans to get behind it.
And as I said on Twitter, in support of you, really nice to see you supporting our region there in the Hills area, the Greater Hills area, Robbie. So awesome work there. And did I hear right, Jaden Prakash has moved from the playing roster into the medical staff?
Well, not the actual medical staff. So he's taken, so those might know Jaden Prakash. He's a gun 3x3 player there. He's represented, some really high quality teams and that. But I believe he's taken a gap year. He's setting up like a physiotherapy business. But it's interestingly, he's been at all the games, so you can tell he's still got that itch to play there. And he was actually having a close look at Talia Tapia after she had that injury in the game there. So, yeah, it's good to see Jaden still around. I'm sure they could do with him on the court there, but, I'm sure he'll be back.
Awesome, Robbie. Great work. When's the next game?
Look, Hills have got a couple of road games this week. So the next game I'm calling is the end of the month playing Maitland. So Maitland were basically in the grand final, lost to Canberra last year in the men's there, and they're a really good side there, the Maitland Mustangs. So looking forward to that. Still waiting for you to come down, Woods. I sit there every week and there's that bar behind me. I'm like, it doesn't feel right without Woods there, sipping a beer.
I'll be there, man. I'm sorry. I've had things on for the first few games.
All good. You're excused. You're excused.
All right. Well, let's do it. Classic Packs is back.
Sounds good. We had that random pack last week, didn't we? That, sort of draft picks pack. It got some decent feedback, but it was a little bit random. But, yeah, what do you got for us today?
Random. I got the 1991 Fleers.
Ooh, I remember those old packs. Yep. I tell you what, Woods, I think it was maybe even 1 or 2 years before these when they still came with the chewing gum in them. I remember sometimes it used to wreck the front card. It was the worst thing. It was the worst chewing gum ever. It was like a rock.
Yeah, I remember in America when you bought them. I travelled to America and got these quite a lot.
That pink stick of gum, right?
Yeah. Okay. Orlando Magic, number 33.
Terry Catledge.
Terry Catledge.
You love when I get the clues off just a jersey number, don't you, Woods? I know you.
Yeah, I have to start there because you're really, really good. Terry had a solid season in 1991, averaging 14.6 points per game, shooting 46% from the field.
Did we not get his card a few weeks ago as well? Maybe 2 weeks ago we got his card from maybe Washington or a different team.
We did. Maybe on the 89-90 Hoops, I think we got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Phoenix Suns guard, number 32. Went to the University of Dayton. Filling in for an injured Kevin Johnson. This guy was a second round.
Elliot Perry?
No, Nigel Knight.
Oh, yeah. Jeez, that's going back, that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't say I've met many people with that first name either, but yeah, I probably wouldn't have got that one no matter how many clues you gave me for that. I
Denver
think
Nuggets.
32 for Phoenix, I think of Jason Kidd, right? When he played for him.
Yep. Denver Nuggets forward. His surname actually is the same name as the type of dunk you can perform. Okay? Alright, he's a 6'8" forward. Number 30. Right? And his surname is in the name of a type of dunk you can perform. Alright?
So I'm thinking like a 360 or a windmill or an alley-oop or a
Think of New York.
Or,
What's famous in New York?
the Empire State Building?
No.
Like a Statue of Liberty?
Yep. Okay.
Marcus Liberty.
Marcus Liberty.
Nice.
That was a good clue, right?
We got there, and then that was good. And hey, that's those jerseys that we love, Woods. I know we
Yeah.
both got Alex English ones of those. So,
Well, I'm
Marcus
actually
Liberty,
going. I'm actually going to a 40th birthday party, right, on the 29th of this month, and
Yeah.
the theme is 80s, right? And everyone's
Yeah.
coming up with all these great.
You're just going to rock a throwback.
I'm going to wear an Alex English jersey because he was the highest point scorer in the NBA in the 80s.
Good one. Hey, let's face it, Wood. If that wasn't a theme, you probably still would have worn a jersey to that party.
Yeah,
anyway,
probably,
right? So you
probably,
can't
man.
lose, can you?
Probably,
I like
man.
it.
Probably,
I like
man.
it. I like that.
We've got this guy's card a lot. This is his Minnesota Timberwolves card. In the 1991 season, averaged 18 points a game. He's a forward, 6'6". Went to DePaul University. He was the second round, 35th pick by the San Antonio Spurs in '85. Had a very unsuccessful coaching career afterwards. I'm talking about none other than
Playing with Minnesota at the time, there you said.
Yep.
Oh, Sam Mitchell?
no, Tyrone Coburn.
Ty Corbin, of course. See, Woods, you always leave out that he played for the Hawks. I tell you that.
Yeah,
every
I
time,
always do, don't I?
Say
I
the
always do.
Hawks and I know.
Yeah, I always do. Underrated, but this guy, like, just walking bucket, man. Always averaged over 20 points a game. With Milwaukee and San Antonio, number 34, bruising forward. Love to play offense. Terry Cummings. He was a great offensive player.
Did he go to DePaul as well?
He did too.
He did, yeah. I was a big fan of Terry Cummings back in the day. He could certainly score, couldn't he?
Yeah.
That's for sure.
He's a bit like Joe Luala-Chul. Never seen a shot he didn't like, right? He'd
Right,
put him up, right? Like,
Yeah.
Okay, I've worn this guy's very jersey before. Okay, Minnesota Timberwolves
Oh,
guard
something you need to do sometimes when you first wake up in the morning, right?
Jerome Pooh Richardson.
Pooh Richardson. That's
Yeah.
a great nickname, isn't it?
Okay, high flyer, great shooter. Went to the University of Kentucky. This is his Charlotte Hornets card.
Jamal Mashman.
White guy,
Oh, Rexy.
Rex Chapman.
Someone else we've talked about a fair bit on that show as well. Have I worn my Rex Chapman jersey? I don't think I have.
I don't think
yet.
you have.
He's one on the list I've got to wear one day because, yeah, love Rex Chapman. Still one of my favourite dunks in the NBA dunk comp. It was a simple one, Woods, where he took a bounce with his right hand, flipped it over his sort of back there and went up and sort of caught it like that. Simple dunk, but I always liked that one. Yep.
Yep, I remember. This guy, absolute legend, started off on the Showtime Lakers in the early 80s and finished off his career playing with Kobe on the Lakers. He's also featured heavily in J.R. Smith's most recent documentary on Amazon Prime as his coach in his rookie season at New Orleans.
Scott, yeah.
Byron
Hey, Woods,
Scott.
that answers my question. So you watched that J.R. Smith show?
I
Right?
did.
That wasn't too bad. I mean,
It's okay, man. Yeah.
But the one I said you need to watch is the Clutch Academy one. That's the one.
Yeah, I don't know where to find it, man. I need to get that off you,
I'll
right?
have to hook you up. Yeah.
Okay. Always compared to Michael Jordan as being that other great shooting guard in that generation, right? And Jordan and him actually ended up becoming pretty good friends in the end. I'm talking about...
Did he have as much hair as Jordan? And did he like to glide?
Yes.
Glide the glide. Nice.
Clyde Drexler. Yeah.
What's your thoughts on these cards, Woods? What's the go with that massive like blue sort of border section? It seems to dominate the card a little bit.
Yeah.
Show me the back of them. Where we just got like
it's a bit nostalgic because I really like the information on the back of them.
Yeah, the
right?
back's actually all right, isn't it? Hey, did you just show me who that was then?
Yeah, unfortunately I did. Okay, so we got Rory Sparrow.
I was going to say, you could have said a clue and said it's the surname of a bird, and I would have got Rory Sparrow.
Yeah. I think I've done that before.
He's someone me and my brother used to always just laugh at that name when we were younger, sort of thing. So shout out to Rory.
Man, mate, Boston Celtics guard, make the Reebok pumps famous. He was probably looking on that dunk.
Yeah, you'd think he was. Do you remember that? Do you remember those old Reebok ads back in the day? Yep. And it was like, "Hey, D Brown." Remember he came in, he did that dunk. And I think there was a Dominique one, a Shaq one, D Brown, and maybe someone else. But they used to play him all the time on those Channel 10 NBA games. Yeah.
Okay, big guard from the Miami Heat. We've pulled his card a few times. Had a solid NBA career. Sometimes we don't speak about him. Went to Syracuse.
The tank.
The tank.
The Shermanator.
Sherman Douglas.
He was a big guard. I was saying, what's his listed weight on the back of that one? Because I bet it's incorrect.
We've got 6 foot 180.
180? Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, he was way bigger than that. He was probably closer to 100 kilos, which is about 220, I think. Yeah. So they might have been a bit kind to him there.
Okay, when we talk about great point guards of the 80s, or late 80s and early 90s, sometimes we forget about this guy, right? But he was amazing. And then has a political link with Sacramento.
Kevin Johnson. Still one of my favorite. I think he might be. Yeah, still one of my favorite in-game dunks. Woods when he dunks over Hakeem Olajuwon. He goes down baseline, he goes up like that and crams it. Yeah. He was a really good player, wasn't he? Yeah, I was a fan of KJ. They drafted by Cleveland, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, 7th pick in the 1987 NBA draft. Played only a short time with Cleveland before getting traded to Phoenix at the trade deadline that year.
Might have been in the Larry Nance trade or something maybe to go there. Yeah.
And finally, we've got Walking Bucket. He's a commentator now, guard, forward. Had a great career at Phoenix and Seattle, usually coming off the bench.
Eddie Johnson.
Eddie Johnson. Yeah.
Hey, Woods, I've got to say, I was on point today, mate, considering I've had a long week with work there. I think there's only maybe one of those I didn't get with the clues there. So, no, some good clues from you as well. I like that.
Done really well, Robbie. All right. Well, that brings the show to an end this week. Robbie, why don't you tell the whole audience about where we can be found and all of that?
Of course, I'd love to do that, Woods. So, of course, we can be followed on Twitter at Throwback Hoops. We also... Geez, I don't have my normal notes in front of me as well here, Woods, for some reason. So basically, our email address is throwbackhoopspodcast@gmail.com. What have I forgotten there without my notes, Woods? Instagram, throwback hoops, right? Throwback.hoops.
Throwback.hoops.
That's it. I don't go onto Instagram, so I'm not the best at plugging that one there. But why don't you tell us about your Patreon and everything else?
Yeah, Patreon, great. Please continue pledging your support to us. We appreciate it, everyone. Actually send some questions, and we haven't done that in a while. And when the season's winding down, we will answer some of your questions, right? We need to do that at Viewers Mailbag shortly.
Yeah, Woods, I know I've teased a few special guests as well, so they're definitely coming. We thought we'd just hold back a few, things just to, as the NBA playoffs have heated up. But once the series get a little bit shorter and we go more to the one game a day, and there's less games to talk about, we've got some good guests lined up to come on as well, for sure.
Awesome, Robbie. Looking forward to it, and hopefully over this Anzac weekend we've got coming up, we can sit down and watch a lot of NBA and
here's one for you, Woods. Will the Hawks still be alive when we record next week?
No.
Okay. Yeah, because Game 3 is Saturday. Yeah, you're probably right. It'll probably be all over, but hopefully they are anyway. Let's be optimistic.
All right. Well, it's peace out from Robbie and me and the whole Throwback Hoops family. Any final thoughts, brother?
No, look, as I always mention, get out and support your NBL1 team. Watch some of these NBA playoffs as well. There's some great games going on at the moment. Can't wait to do it all again soon.
See you next week, guys.